welcome to Bible Society's Changing Lives in Africa for Generations. We are so pleased to see you all. Before we begin with all the really interesting stuff, I'm just going to run through the plan for today. So we'll start by having a chat and watching a short film with Bible Society's Africa Mission Specialist. We'll cover some of the incredible work that has already happened across the region and look forward to see what else needs to be done. There'll be time for a short Q&A after this, so get those questions ready. Next up, we'll hear from Bible Society's Head of Legacy. He's going to talk to us about the importance of having a proper will and how leaving a legacy can change lives. There'll also be time for questions here, so don't worry if they weren't answered before. Please post your questions in the chat and start them with the letter Q. That way our tech guys behind the scenes can find them. Our experts will answer as many questions as they can, but if there's any that we don't get to, then we'll follow up with you afterwards via email. We know that you're super busy, so we're going to try and keep this all under an hour long. And it is available on demand, so if you want to share it afterwards or watch it again, it will be available. So let's get started and welcome Noemi Foster. She is our Africa Mission Specialist for Bible Society, and she oversees our work in Africa and has very strong relationships with the team across the continent. So Noemi, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
It's lovely to see you. Let's start. So many of us have heard of Swaziland, or eSwatini as it is now called, but we probably couldn't tell you much about it. Can you start by giving us an idea of what eSwatini is like as a country and what the current situation is there, especially for Christians?
Sure, absolutely. So hello again, Abby, and hello to anyone who's joining us today. It's good to see people tuning in. So to dive straight in, eSwatini, which, as you say, Abby, was formerly known as Swaziland, that's probably how most of us have known it as. It legally changed its name to eSwatini in 2018 when the country marked 50 years of independence from British rule. We have a map here. So as you can see, eSwatini is a very small landlocked country in the heart of southern Africa. So it's a country surrounded by land with no access to the sea. And its immediate neighbours are South Africa and Mozambique, and it is spread over 6,500 square miles, which is smaller than the whole of Wales. So it's a really small country. And overall, it has a population of around 1.2 million people, which, just to give you an idea, that's the size of Glasgow. So again, really small population, small country, small population. They have two official languages, eSwatini and English. And generally speaking, most of the population is dependent on agriculture, but what we're seeing is many young people are migrating more and more to urban areas, which is something you see across the whole of Africa generally. So that's eSwatini. In terms of the churches, well, Christianity is the dominant religion in eSwatini. The figures vary, but we're looking at around 80 to 85% of the population who call themselves Christian. So Christianity actually first came to the country, I didn't know this, I had to look this up, but through Methodist missionaries in the 1820s, and then it's grown through the presence of other missionaries since then. Thankfully, the government in eSwatini respects freedom of religion, and churches are continuing to grow, which is amazing. But what we're often seeing is, while there is numerical growth with mega churches and mass conversions, and this is something we see across a lot of the continent in Africa, we can't necessarily say the same about spiritual growth, which is a lot harder to measure. So what we're seeing is, too often, teaching is corrupted by strong winds of prosperity gospel, if you've heard of that. So where preaching is effectively a kind of skillful marketing art, where Jesus is relegated to the background. And so success in ministry is often measured by quantity rather than quality. Of course, this isn't the case for all the churches in eSwatini, but it is a real challenge for faithful leaders to try and tackle and to bring nominal, maybe cultural Christians to the heart of the gospel. So our work at Bible Society is to really build up churches to be confident in the scriptures, to specifically equip leaders to be confident in teaching the life transforming power of the gospel. So that's what we're really hoping to do in the eSwatini, and I better stop there before I get carried away.
So you just touched briefly on Bible Society. Can you give us more of an idea of what the Bible Society in eSwatini is like, and what's their history and who are the team, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went out to visit the country, visit the team a couple of months before the pandemic hit, so nearly 2 years ago now. And I was really struck by how warm, by how dynamic the team are, and how much they really do want to be salt and light in their community, shining out that salt and light of the gospel. So they are led by a wonderful smiley man called Mbuli. We're going to see him later in a video. He's very wise, very savvy. He knows how to lead the team very well. He knows how to conduct the Bible Society in its kind of day-to-day business. But he's really prayerful, and he has a heart to serve the churches. Overall, he heads up a team of about 7 people, and then there are some translators on top of that. So probably about 10 people all in all. Historically, the Bible Society of eSwatini was formed in 1967, so they've been in the country for just over, well, more than that, over 50 years now. And throughout those last few decades, the team have really grown, they've really developed significantly, and they've really established their presence in the country to be known by the churches. So it's amazing to see how much the Bible Society now really has a presence in the country. And the team are based in the mission centre. That's the building that they've got, the mission centre. That's their office on a day-to-day basis. So that's where their headquarters are. They start the day with morning prayers and singing, and then they might often do trips outside of the centre to visit churches or to visit projects which they run around the country.
Amazing. So you did touch on this slightly earlier as well, but could you give us an idea of what the Bible Society in eSwatini do? So where's their heart, and what they're doing for the country?
Yeah, sure. So as I briefly mentioned a second ago, the team in eSwatini really do have a heart to be kind of living and breathing salt and light in their community. They really have a heart to shine out the distinctive hope of the gospel into the brokenness around them. And what we need to know about eSwatini is the population has suffered the devastating effects of HIV/AIDS for a long time now, and around 24% of children, that's, I mean, crazy figures, almost a quarter, around 24% of children in the country are orphans, and many are forced to fend for themselves in vulnerable situations. So the Bible Society in eSwatini have made it really one of their priorities to reach out to these neglected communities to ensure that they too can access and understand the Word of God. So, and this is where the mission centre that I was mentioning a second ago has been such a blessing for them in their ministry to reach out to the children across the country. And we are so grateful for the generosity of donors who prayerfully decided to help fund building this centre several years ago, because we're now seeing the impact that it is having, that this legacy money has already helped achieve. The centre is bearing so much fruit already. Children come every week for activities, for Bible studies. In fact, we have pictures of children in the centre, I believe, which you can see now, but they get a free lunch when they arrive, and then they sing Christian songs, they memorise Bible verses, they pray, they go into small groups. And actually, what's amazing is that the national television, there's a crew that comes every month to film and broadcast one of these children's sessions onto national TV. So the sessions are bearing more fruit than we can even measure, and they're making more of an impact than we can even kind of begin to know. So that's a real focus of their work, working with marginalised communities. But other than that, the team have several translation projects going on, and amongst them, what we're really supporting here in England is the translation of the eSwatini Study Bible. So as I said, eSwatini is the main language in the country along with English. And here in the UK, we're so blessed, aren't we, to have not only Bibles and many different translations and versions at that, but also study Bibles with notes to read from and go deeper. I know I have my ESV study Bible, which I use when I'm doing a Bible study or in my quiet time. But this is a luxury which many countries still don't have. They might have the Bible, but they don't have access to study Bibles and study notes. So we are really wanting to change that. We are translating the ESV study Bible notes into eSwatini. The New Testament has already been completed, and it was joyfully received a couple of years ago, but work is now in full steam on the Old Testament. So we're really hoping to complete that by the end of next year. That's the plan. And the prayer of the team is that this study Bible will just help address the limitations of understanding, and especially for church leaders who are just desperate for deeper Bible resources. So we have the mission center, we have translation work, and then very briefly, actually, one of the other key things that the team have really emphasized is an exciting program of effectively translating the Bible, but into sign language. So it's not written, it's signed. And that's for deaf children, because again, there's a really large deaf community in eSwatini. And so they film people signing Bible stories basically for children, and then they share the films with local schools for the deaf. And actually what's amazing is that the recording studio, as well as the headquarters for the National Organization for the Deaf in eSwatini, they are actually in one of the wings of the mission center. So they are literally side by side with the team in their offices. So this work with the deaf community is something they really feel hugely close to.
That sounds amazing. So how does this vision that Bible Society have for eSwatini kind of tie into the work that's across the continent of Africa?
Yeah, so eSwatini is a perfect example of where the church has grown significantly through the work of the Bible Society over the last few years. The team in eSwatini have a desire, like I said, to live out the gospel into the culture around them. And that begins really by equipping the church, by providing discipleship resources for leaders and young people. There's a real focus on young people in Africa generally, because as we know, Africa is such a young continent. So as we look ahead, we as Bible Society are specifically turning our attention more and more to the Sahel region, which is higher up north. And I believe we have a map, so hopefully you can see that. But the Sahel, you may or may not have heard of this term, but it's a geographical term which comes up occasionally in news articles or in books about Africa. But it refers to this belt of countries stretching east to west across the continent, south of the Sahara Desert. And the word Sahel is actually derived from the Arabic meaning shore or coast. And it's a figurative illustration of the vegetation of the Sahel almost appearing as a coastline which delimits the sands of the Sahara Desert. But we, as Bible Society, like I said, we're currently focusing our work specifically in 15 countries. And among them, I won't list all of them, but there's, for instance, Senegal, the Gambia, Mali, Burkina Faso, Togo, Niger, Nigeria, the Central African Republic, Eritrea. So it's a very large area. And the Sahel is also incredibly complex and challenging. There's political instability with nations recovering from years of conflict and civil war. Poverty is rife. This is something that really defines this area. Mali and Niger are among the poorest countries in the world. They have some of the lowest GDPs. And across all of these countries, like I said, we see very young population. About 70 to 80% of the Sahelian population is under the age of 35. But with that, we also see high levels of unemployment and still very low levels of education and literacy compared to other countries, even countries within Africa. So real challenges there. Another big challenge is that the land is fragile. Just this weekend, I saw a BBC documentary about the effects of climate change on the Sahara Desert and on these Sahelian countries. So they're really affected by climate change and really prone to environmental disasters, which can then, of course, lead to food shortages. So everything is linked. Infrastructure is poor, so Bible distribution is difficult. So I could list so many challenges for these countries, and also the main thing. One of the main things is that in most of these countries, Christians are in the minority, with Muslim majority populations, and there is a rising tide of violence from extremist groups like ISIS, like Boko Haram, mixed in with very complex kind of decade-long tribal rivalries. So it goes without saying that this is arguably one of the hardest, toughest places for Bible work in the world. So Abby, to answer your question, instead of giving up on the church in this region, we, Bible Society, want to step up our work. We want to go up a gear to help support the Christian brothers and sisters that we have in this difficult region. So all of these challenges also offer huge opportunities, and that's what excites us. There's huge opportunity for the gospel. People are longing for justice, they're longing for hope, they're longing for meaning and peace. And of course, we believe the Bible provides those answers. So that's why we're focusing on that region. So we're moving from the south of Africa to higher up north. And that's where we're really focusing our work from now on.
Okay, so that's what's next for Africa. Great. And you did talk about the other things that eSwatini are doing at the moment, the Bible Society there are doing. Are there any other plans kind of going forward for eSwatini that we can watch out for?
Yeah, so I mean, eSwatini really is a success story in many ways. We're really happy with how we've seen the team grow so much over the last few years and expand their work. They've matured into being really a very independent, very self-sustaining Bible society. They have drive, they have mission in what they want to achieve. And so in many ways, they are able to continue their work without a kind of heavy hand of support from the Bible Society here in the UK. So we are still supporting the translation work, but we're delighted to see that they're really growing in their independence, and that's what we love to see, that's what we want to see. So as I said, that's not the case in other areas around Africa. There are many Bible societies around the Sahel region, like I mentioned, who are desperate for support, who are desperate for more resources, and really a closer partnership with us, the British Bible Society, to help establish their presence as Bible Society to serve the churches in their countries. So we have the possibility to do something equally as special in another country. We have more infrastructure needs, like we provide the mission centre in eSwatini. There are similar infrastructure needs, but really what we're hoping to achieve now for the continent in Africa and the Sahel region especially is we want to strengthen the Sahelian church. We really want to help them engage with God's word. We want to build up church leaders to be confident in teaching the life-transforming power of the gospel, really to push for distinctive, authentic discipleship. This prosperity gospel movement that I was mentioning in eSwatini, it is coming to the Sahel, and it's really gathering momentum, and it's drawing away from authentic discipleship and really well-taught preaching. So we want Christians in the Sahel to be ambassadors for Christ in their own communities and be salt and light in the culture around them. So of course, in the Sahel, like I said, there is the threat of Islam and Islamic terror, which combined with extreme poverty and joblessness is a trap for the youth. But we do see, and this is what's really exciting, when I chat with my colleagues in the Sahel, we see a resilient church nonetheless. They're still standing in the face of violence and intimidation. We have dynamic, visionary Bible Society leaders. Every time I have a Skype call or a Zoom chat with my Bible Society colleagues, I always feel really invigorated because they have hope. They are dynamic, they are visionary, and they're keen to drive mission forward. So we want to channel that. We want to equip the church with resources to help people study the Bible. We want to help them read it by themselves. We want to equip them in small groups. And of course, we are continuing our vital work of translation. That's the case all around Africa. And there are many translations around the Sahel that we are supporting. And actually, what's really exciting is we're working on some orality projects. And what I mean by that is there are high levels of illiteracy still in this region, but many people communicate through a culture of orality where they transfer stories through oral storytelling. And that's something we want to channel. We want to bring the Bible through oral storytelling. So we're channeling music and storytellers to give the Bible and translate it culturally into that context. So those are the kind of big projects that we're going to be looking towards. And as I said, a big push to help improve infrastructure around the region so that Bible societies can be more easily, that Bibles can be more easily supplied to all the four corners of the countries. And we've already, thanks to so many generous donors, we've already been able to provide cars, and that's been amazing. We've also funded repair work on office buildings, but there's still more. Some of the teams need computers, they need desks, they need solar power panels, they need increased internet speed. So all of these things are needs, and we're just so grateful for the generosity of people who already provided so much and are continuing to provide. So that's a bit of an overview of the work for the years ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So it's great to hear everything that we've already heard. We've got a video that we mentioned, so let's have a look at that. It's focusing on the impact of the Children's Mission Centre in eSwatini, and then we'll come back together and have some time for questions.
In 2019, Bible Society eSwatini opened a new children's mission centre in Manzini, built with the help of a legacy gift from a Bible Society supporter. Manzini is located up in the mountains of eSwatini, formerly known as Swaziland. And since its opening, the Mission Centre has had a profound impact on the community, including those who work with the centre.
My name is Ngebombuli, the CEO of the Bible Society of eSwatini. I'm very excited to introduce you into this wonderful place here, the Children's Center, which was built through the support of the British and Foreign Bible Society, which received a gracious donation of one of its lifetime supporters, Mr. Raymond. So we are excited as Bible Society of eSwatini for this wonderful building here. It's very useful in many ways to us as the Bible Society of eSwatini. As you can see here, we have this side where we do quite a number of our children's projects, which includes Bible listening programs, which are very transformative to children of eSwatini as they grow up. They are able to access the Word of God.
The Mission Center has really moved a milestone in terms of assisting the Bible Society to achieve its objective in educating children with scripture and biblical truths. Because previously we worked with children and we had to move or commute to the communities in the outskirts to try and observe what the children are engaging in and how they are learning. Of course, learning was ongoing. However, having a center to now bring in the children is an experience for the children as well, to come into a facility that is children friendly for them to learn and engage with scriptures. We see a lot of excitement the moment they walk through the gate, because it's like they're going to a field trip, they're excited, and that's really fulfilling, because I believe that is where the learning itself begins.
We also have a facility which is a blessing to the deaf community across the country. We have offices for the deaf. We also have a studio where the deaf community is able to record or to translate documents into sign language. So we are very grateful to the British and Foreign Bible Society for the gracious support. It is highly impactful to us as the Bible Society of eSwatini and to the Christian community in the general.
And as Bible Society, we have a verse, Matthew chapter 6, verse 16. It says, "Let your light shine to everyone so that people can see your good works." So as Bible Society, we are much more proactive in many things we are doing so that we can reach as many people as possible. So this facility is very helpful to the Swaziland nation, very helpful to the young people, to the children, to the MPs, lawmakers, and to the entire country. It is very helpful. So we thank you so much for this facility. We hope it is going to reach more people as targeted by Bible Society.
This side here behind me, we have our offices, the staff offices, a very decent place, and a place which has resulted into much productivity to our team of staff members.
It is such a good environment for us to be productive as we do the Bible Society mandate and extend our great work and do the Great Commission.
We also have here our Bible shop, which through which we are able to reach quite a sizable amount of customers, and we are able to also store our Bible stock.
The center is also tailored to address local conditions and needs. For instance, the content is structured such that we are teaching the children exactly what they need, their specific needs. So having a space where they can come and be free to ask those questions and be given the right answers is very fundamental.
A very important part in this building is our kitchen, right where I am standing. This is where, as the Bible Society, we are able to cook our meals. We are able to also share our meals with our members. We are able to also share our meals with our members. to provide meals for the children who come at the center, who come for the various children's activities. So through this place here, we are able to cook for them so that as they come for their spiritual nourishment through the Word of God, they are also able to get food. As the Kingdom of Eswatini, we've had quite a number of challenges, which includes issues of HIV and AIDS, and as a result of those, we still having a very high rate of orphans in the country. So through this facility, our kitchen here, we're able to also provide meals for them so that when they come here, they do not go with empty stomachs.
Yes, Bible Society. Makalobamba lomdzala sajabula kakhulu kulobamba lomdzala kuvangele sakhiwo seBible Society nale Children's Center. Bantwana bethu ba-improve kakhulu. Siyabonga ukuthi Bible Society asilethele sakhiwo. Mina ke ngeva ngamawe nomcebo.
Anginibingelele igama lami ngiphilile ngokamqokokazi. Ngihlala umphakathi ngalobamba lomdzala. Nebantwana laba ngi4. Kulabo bantwana beyimpilo beyilukhuni kakhulu. Bible Society akunye namoya center. Waphaka wativeta watikhanyisa kimi etikwalo kulithemba bese ngilahlile. Ngalabantwana ukuthi labantwana ngibaphilisa ngani, ngibanaka ngani. Hlanhlale enkulu wativeta Bible Society nganaba bantwana lebe basolo babambe iclub. Bayibambele lapha phasi esihlahla wathi uyativeta Bible Society wathi nayi ishelter le right wathi nakabanikile ishelter sakubonga kakhulu lokho ke ikakhulu mina ngingumdala.
Ligama libito lami nginqamsile Fakuthe ngihlala eBhetane. Sajabula nathi la ndzaweli kube neBible Society sabona ukuthi indzawo yakithi iyathuthuka. Kuyati kwami ke leBible Society kuze singenela ngekhathi kwamenywa abantwana betalana bamenywa sisilindiwe. Kunyendi labakufunzile, kunyendi lesikubonile la lababuye nako injabulo lababuye nayo la Bible Society. Siyabonga ukuthi le Bible Society itekto sifundisela abantu bethu ngaNkulunkulu ukuthi bahloniphe, balalele, bamade uNkulunkulu.
We want to say a very big thank you as Bible Society to the sponsors and to everyone who has had a hand in promoting this great facility. To the sponsors, thank you so much. And we pray God's blessings be upon you.
So I just want to pass my sincere gratitude to our sponsors. It has really been impactful. And going forward as the Bible Society, we do hope that we will expand the projects that we engage in with the children and hopefully have full-time teachers because we're currently using volunteers. Also looking forward to adding more activities that the children can engage in, and also just continuing to sensitize the local communities to make good use of the center because it has really, really amazing facilities and the lessons are also really amazing. I thank you.
And without this donation and without this lifetime supporter of the British and Foreign Bible Society, we wouldn't have been able to establish this great facility. So thank you very much for this blessing, and thank you very much for being able to use whatever the Lord has blessed you with to minister to the children in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and also to us as Bible Society and to a number of beneficiaries of this facility. May God bless the British and Foreign Bible Society, and may God bless everyone who is generously giving to the British and Foreign Bible Society. Thank you.
Our thanks to everyone at the Bible Society of eSwatini for their help in making this film. The most precious gift you can leave to the next generation is the love, comfort and hope that are found in the Bible. So why not leave a gift in your will to Bible Society and act today to make a difference tomorrow?
What an inspiring story. We will move on to Q&A in just a moment, but before we do that, I just wanted to ask you, can you give us a real-time update on how COVID has affected our friends in eSwatini? And also, we may have heard about some political unrest in the news, and just be good to know what's going on with that, if you've got any updates.
Yeah, I do. So, you're right. We may have seen. I saw eSwatini pop up in the news recently, and Mbuli, the general secretary, the leader of the Bible Society in eSwatini, he messaged me a few days ago, basically to say that there is significant unrest at the moment, sadly, due to student protests who are calling for political reform. So many schools are closed at the moment. Pupils have been arrested, and newspapers are calling it kind of an education crisis. Although you could go further and just say it's a social crisis. Trials are due to take place with a lot of the arrested pupils who are potentially facing terrorism charges. So the Bible Society team are having to just be quite wise in how to operate, whether to go maybe with minimal staff to the mission center, just to be wise in whether or not, because there is looting often that takes place. So just how to continue their work. Do pray for them as they navigate chaotic waters in this troubled context. A lot of public transport operators are also kind of affected, so that affects the movements of the Bible Society. But the thing to say is this is not new. So while it's troubling, it's not new. They actually had similar unrest back in June this summer, and then it quietened down, and then it's coming back. And generally speaking, it's nothing new in an African context. Many countries are very volatile, and so there are occasional bursts of unrest which threaten the peace and the work of Bible societies in Africa. So we really have to keep praying for them. Generally speaking, eSwatini is one of the few countries, and really the only one in Africa at the moment, that is an absolute monarchy. Um, so they've got a king who's been there since 1986, so that does limit somewhat the democratic freedom. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but we do just need to bear them in mind. Generally speaking, it's a peaceful society, but at the moment there is unrest. Yeah. So that's to answer your second question. Your first question, which is about COVID, the thing is, I mean, our teams in Africa generally, all of them were heavily impacted by the pandemic. Thankfully, we haven't lost anyone. No one's died directly from the virus in our teams, but from an economic point of view, the implications of having to close their offices, even just temporarily, close their bookshops where they had a stable revenue that was coming in, was disastrous, and many struggled to pay an income to their staff. Bible sales, which is often sometimes the only source of local revenue, for instance, in Niger, dropped by 80%, and that just has a massive, devastating impact on the salaries of the team. So, similarly, projects which involved Sunday schools or distributing Bibles to churches or gathering leaders for conferences, anything that involved meeting people, had to be put on hold often, because just like here, large gatherings were banned and churches had to be closed. So often our colleagues couldn't visit the projects like they would have wanted to, because they weren't allowed to travel to remote areas. And actually, in a lot of countries, there were also strict curfews. So challenging during the pandemic, and it really has seriously impacted the mission in Africa. But thankfully, Bible Society is actually an umbrella organization. So we are a fellowship of many Bible societies around the world. And that's where the Bible societies in wealthier, more fortunate countries, like in the UK, for instance, decided to set up an emergency fund, an emergency pot, to provide basic, immediate financial help. So that was to help really the teams that were struggling the most with their direct costs of just paying the bills, paying the rent, paying their salaries. And so some of you, maybe even watching, might remember the Solidarity Fund, or we also called it the Rescue and Recovery Fund. And we're so grateful to all of the donors who did give generously, because we helped raise almost £2 million. And that's an incredible amount, which helped so many Bible societies and really helped save them in their work. So yeah, the teams were really impacted. I mean, some Bible societies actually were quite creative during this time, and they were able to turn their attention to, for instance, developing good websites, trying to liaise with partners and churches through WhatsApp. And we did see some projects unexpectedly kind of flourishing and running of their own accord, even without the direct involvement of the team. So again, if I just use Niger, an example, Niger is a massive country, very rural, and Hama, who's the leader in that team, he and his team had been running literacy classes to get people to learn to read, to then engage with the Bible. But what we saw students who had already taken up some Bible Society literacy courses putting all their energy into teaching members of their own families at home and basically taking it all on themselves without the involvement of the Bible Society. And the program kind of organically grew because of the sheer longing of people to learn to read and write. And then what happened was, when the Bible Society eventually did go and visit these areas, they were massively surprised to see classes just continuing by themselves. So that was amazing, and we have seen things just grow unexpectedly, but it has been a really challenging time for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's really inspiring to hear. So we'll answer some questions now from some of the people watching. So let's start with waiting for. Oh, here we go. Does Bible Society work in Zimbabwe? From Ursula
Yes.
Scott.
Yes, it does.
Next one.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, Bible Society is this umbrella organization. We have a fellowship of Bible societies, and what's amazing is that we're not headquarters in the UK and then sending out teams to different countries. We have local Bible societies in almost every country in the world now. So they operate with their own local staff who understand the context, who understand the church, who've grown up in those countries, and who lead the projects themselves. So yes, there is a Bible Society in Zimbabwe. We ourselves, the British Bible Society, don't have a huge amount of partnership with them at the moment because, as I said, we really are focusing on the Sahel, but they are active, they are well, and they're doing a lot of work there. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Christians are backsliding as a result of hardships in the country. How can you assist them out of this plight?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question, and it's something that I mentioned, when I was just listing the sheer amount of challenges that our brothers and sisters are facing: poverty, illiteracy, Islamic extremism, even just climate change. So many things that really are testing, trialing the church. And what we do find, as you've said, is that we see in some occasions Christians backsliding and just giving up on their faith or converting to Islam or all kinds of different things. So that's something that we as Bible Society have a real heart to want to change. And I think what we think is our priority is to equip the churches, to equip specifically the leaders, and give them confidence in knowing how to teach the scriptures biblically. We do believe that the Bible speaks for itself. And so when we equip churches to know how to read the Bible, to understand the Bible, to study the Bible, both by empowering the leaders, but also providing resources maybe for study and for families. We've got quite a few family Bible engagement projects coming up, and also quite a few Sunday school programs. So trying to equip different levels at different levels within the churches, we do think that that's the way to help strengthen the church. There is a balance between showing very practical love to help, and this also, on the same vein, the need to point to Christ. And I think the two can work together very well. We do have occasionally, when there is, for instance, what we've had in Mozambique, there was a huge cyclone that completely devastated a lot of the churches in the north of the country and completely wrecked through a lot of the churches. We gave an emergency fund just for practical help, to give sacks of rice to help refund some of the buildings of the churches. And so occasionally, when there's immediate dire need, then the Bible societies come alongside and show practical support. And as I said, in eSwatini, for instance, with the children, they'll always give them a meal, and they'll make sure that the children are well fed and then can go on to reading the Bible and discussing it together. But there are plenty of charities and organizations who work specifically in Africa and who are social justice, who are really specifically targeting on physical needs, digging wells, building churches, building things. We as Bible Society, our focus is to equip the church and to be bringing resources that are bringing confidence in the scripture.
Amazing. Thank you. We've got time, I think, for one more. Yes. Do you work with other missionary societies like CMS?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So this is really key, a key part of how we're working in each country. We don't want to just work independently. I mean, a direct example of that is whenever we do a translation project, the last thing we want is to start work. And as some of you watching will know, a translation can take 20 years. It can take 20 years to translate the Bible. And it can take an entire team who themselves need training up in understanding the Greek, the Hebrew. We always go from the original languages. We're always very, very strict about how we conduct translation work. The last thing we want to do is to start a project and then find out that Wycliffe or SIL are also doing that very same translation. So we always worked with the other partner organizations in the country to find out what they're doing. How can we partner? How can we actually work on a project together? How can we be sharing resources? So that is very much something that is happening. And within the Bible societies, whenever the teams are working with the churches, they really are keen to work with an interdenominational setting. So it's very ecumenical in many ways. They work with the council, the National Council of Churches, the League of Churches, and we're really encouraging them to conduct conferences and maybe workshops that are bringing together leaders from different church backgrounds to really have a conversation together, so that there's this partnership together, that the church, the big C, capital C, is being equipped. And another vein of that is also massive. Often there's massive collaboration with the government in the country where it's possible. So eSwatini, for instance, have many really fruitful conversations with ministers, whether it's the culture minister or the sports minister. They had a program with football once. So they always try to involve the government, the local authorities, to get their endorsement as well.
Amazing. Thank you. So I think we're going to say goodbye to you for a bit. We're going to welcome Howard. Hello, Howard. Howard is Howard Barker, is our head of legacy giving, and he looks after gifts in wills. And he's going to talk to us about how important that is. So welcome, Howard.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this wonderful event, and so enjoyed listening to Noemi. And hello to everybody in the ether out there watching on the internet. It's great to be here.
Great. So can you start by telling us why it is important for people to have a will?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing to say is just the generic point that it is important from a point of financial planning. It just makes sense to have a will. But it also makes sure that they can control what happens, or where does their wealth go when they pass away. It's important from a point of view of also their the legacy they leave in the wider sense. What you put in your will tells your loved ones what's important to you and where your priorities are. It also means that you can look after your loved ones, make sure that people that are in your family are cared for, and you avoid also making a bit of a mess for the people that get left behind. If you don't leave a will, then it can be quite a complicated deal trying to sort out your estate. So it's, I think, just general all-round thing. It's a good idea. And the other thing I'd also say from personal experience is tell your family what's in your will, so there's no funny surprises when you've passed away. So I think openness and thinking about it and praying about it is just an important part of planning your finances and looking after your loved ones.
Thank you. And we maybe should point out here that we know it's quite a difficult thing for people to talk about. So we're kind of saying these things, but we do completely understand that it's actually a really difficult thing for people to talk about.
It is. It's frightening. So I get that fully.
Yeah. Okay, so why is it important that people include a gift in their will to Bible Society? What difference would that make?
Well, we saw the video of what happened in eSwatini. That mission centre was paid for largely by one man's generosity, leaving a very large legacy to us. And legacies have been formed part of the history of Bible Society. When we were formed in 1804, if you agreed to leave a gift in your will, you became a life member of Bible Society, which I thought was quite interesting. Yeah. And I've seen the old records in our archives, and it shows that the first legacy we ever received was in 1805. So this is sort of in our DNA. It's been going on for like forever. At the moment, we get about a quarter of all our donated income comes from legacy gifts. So if you think of everything we do, is a quarter of that, 25% of that is paid for by people's gifts in their wills, which is great. The other thing to think about it is it's probably the greatest gift that anyone, the largest gift that anyone ever gives. And it's sort of a shared mission that we have. We all love the Bible. We can't do any of this work without donations, but we can provide the Bible to people, as Noemi was talking about, in all sorts of parts of the world. So we can give that, we can provide that if we've got the money to do it. So the impact of these gifts for multiple generations is amazing. And we can all do it. It's not like exclusive. People can leave a small amount of money, people can leave a big amount of money, whatever. It all builds the kingdom. It's all a real blessing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so can you give me an example? So are you leaving a gift in your will to Bible Society?
Yes, is the short answer.
Okay.
My wife and I have written similar wills. So when one of us passes away, everything goes to the other one. Okay. And then when the survivor passes away, what we're going to do is we're going to leave 30% of our estate to each of our 3 children, who are all adults. And like our income, we're going to tithe our estate. So 10% of our estate will go to a few charities that we love, which will, of course, include Bible Society. And the other thing to mention is that by leaving 10% of our estate to charity, it means that we pay a lot less inheritance tax, which I know isn't an issue for some people. But it does mean that the charities win and your estate pays less tax. So everyone's a winner, well, apart from the Inland Revenue, but we won't worry about them too much.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. So can you tell me about bequeathed?
Sure. Drafting a will is a worrying thing. It's not something that we do very often, and it's not an easy thing to do, and people don't know where to go or what to do. They might find solicitors slightly scary, and some of them are. So it's well, what do you do? How can we help people write a will? So what we've done is we've had a partnership with a company called Bequeathed, and they are like an interface between people and law firms. So the wills are written by legally qualified, properly qualified solicitors and such like. It's not some rubbish sort of. It's a proper product, if you like.
Yeah.
And it's free to our supporters. So we pay a small fixed fee, and we have this service whereby our supporters and the friends and family of the supporters can go through the link that's on our website and have a professionally written will free of cost. Now, it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. If you have a wealth like Richard Branson and you own companies and you've got a super complicated estate, it probably doesn't apply to you. But for most of us, it's a perfect way of having a will done so you can look after your loved ones, and hopefully, if there's a bit left, give some to Bible Society. And it's quite flexible. You have to sort of do it online, but then you can follow up with phone calls, videos, face to face. There's various different ways that you can do it, and it covers the whole of the UK. So that includes Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, I think. So it's quite encompassing, and your friends can use it, your family can use it, you can use it. It's open to all. The link is on our legacy webpage, which I think will come up at the end of this video.
Brilliant. So in terms of setting up a will with bequeathed, there isn't a rule, or maybe there is, that you have to leave Bible Society a legacy as part of that, or that's just something that would be lovely?
It would be lovely. But
Okay.
no, you're free to just leave everything in your will to your family, or dare I say, another charity. Hopefully not. I mean, we're hoping that you will remember us, but there's no pressure, and you can do as you wish. It's your will. You have the freedom.
Amazing, thank you. So what do you want us to do? Next steps, Howard?
Well, take some action, I guess. I'd like everybody to have an up-to-date, legally robust will that reflects their wishes. That's what I'd wish for. It's very much a secondary wish that they remember Bible Society. I just think I've had a career dealing with wills, trusts, probates. I've sat opposite families and held their hands through some difficult times. And without doubt, the best way forward is people to have a will. It really is a good idea. So prayerfully think about it. Think about your family, always family first. Think about all those that you love, and hopefully you love Bible Society. So hopefully a gift will come our way. You've seen the impact of these gifts. It can be huge. If you want to put in your will that you want your legacy to go to a specific project or country that you have a real love for, then you're free to do that, and we'll do everything within our power to go along with your wishes. We've tried to make it convenient by using bequeathed. They are good. They do use proper solicitors to produce a quality will, and it's free. And I realise that it's a bit of a difficult format here with questions and so on, and people won't want to talk about private things. So drop me an email, give us a call. I'm here to help.
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, it's great to hear how much of an impact we can make just by leaving a legacy. I actually need to sort my will out, so I will be heading over to the page to sort that out. We do have a bit more time for some questions. So if anybody's got any questions they would like to pose to Howard, that would
we could
be
bring
great.
Noemi back on and people could ask questions about
yeah,
wills or about Africa or whatever.
That's a great shout. Thanks for coming back, Noemi.
Good to see you. I was also thinking about how I need to start thinking about a will. You're never too young, are you, to think about it? So
now that you're married.
Yeah. Interestingly, people statistically on average, people make 3 wills in a lifetime. So they tend to make one when they get married and start having a family. They then tend to make another one when they're getting to retirement age. And then they make another one when they are sort of in old age and have got grandchildren and stuff like that, and sort of what I would call a tidying up will at the end of days.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to kind of refer to it, Howard. I like that. A tidying up will.
The other thing I perhaps should mention, if we had a bit of time, is that I went to the opening ceremony of the mission centre in eSwatini in 2019, and there was everybody from all the different churches right around the country were there. There was politicians there. It was all over the TV. It was such a big event, and I was so proud to liaise with the family of the gentleman that had left the big legacy, and to take photos and show them the impact of what had happened. Absolutely wonderful. The singing was amazing. The food was awful, and had a great time.
That's great. Yeah. So it doesn't look like we're getting any more questions on this, but it might be, like you say, something people want to talk to you about individually. We've already had some questions on the situation in Africa. So it could be that actually we have finished well within the hour that we promised, and we will let people go. Just before we go, a reminder that this is recorded and will be available to watch on demand. You can also share it with people, so please do share with friends and family if you think they might find it interesting. Very quickly, if you would like to chat with either of our experts, if you've got any more questions for them, or you think of some tomorrow when you've had a time to process all of this, the email address is giftsinwills@biblesociety.org.uk. That should be on the screen. There you go. You can all see that. Our experts would love to hear from you. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.